This is how Dove turned a 2% stat into a $4 billion campaign and why competitors couldn't copy it. In this breakdown, I'm going to talk about how the purpose-driven category inversion pattern actually works, 3 industries where it succeeded, and the exact results, plus a free GBT to test this pattern with your client's brand below. Let's dive in. So the purpose-driven category inversion pattern, as you can see here, this is one of those campaign advertisements that they had. In their case, they're showing a beautiful woman who has a small cup size. It says 2 check marks, check boxes, half empty or half full. And the question is, does sexiness depend on how full your cups are? Join the beauty debate. What they're doing here is trying to get people in conversation about a common problem. And that's what leads us to what this pattern really is. So with purpose-driven categories, you need to find a fundamental dishonesty that your industry is telling your customer and your people. In the beauty industry, it's trying to tell people that this body, this kind of person with a size 8 dress is beautiful. Or in our case on the screen, if you can see it, it's a woman with large cup sizes. It's really getting to this vulnerable truth telling that we all struggle with, and women in particular, which Dove brand is uniquely positioned to. And what they're doing is they're surfacing it with undeniable data. So build your brand on telling that truth. So what did Dove do? They commissioned research proving their entire industry was making 98% of their customers feel excluded. Then they built a movement out of naming that publicly together. What were the results? Over 20 years, sales climbed from 2.5 billion to 4 billion over the first 10 years, that decade. 60% of revenue growth in a category where everyone said the room for growth was already spent and you couldn't expand it any further. I mean, 4 billion is pretty darn good for a huge company like this. Now, competitors did try to copy this. If you want to see that newsletter, it's down in the description. I talk about 3 failed places where these brands faked it and they did not make it. But the reason why competitors couldn't copy it is that you have to ask, how does a brand that sells anti-wrinkle cream suddenly celebrate wrinkles? That's the switch you have to make. And any rapid pivot looks kind of hypocritical. So Dove claimed the authenticity high ground and they made it structurally unavailable to everyone else. Let's continue this here. Now, the lesson that marketing strategists might take away from this is that they might take away that Dove is the wrong one to do this. They hear be authentic, they hear take a stand, but then to actually commit to it, you have to plan it out and you have to do it quite well. In fact, there are 3 failed cases you can read in depth in the newsletter down below where brands tried this. Victoria's Secret, Pepsi tried this, H&M tried this. They all failed, and some of them failed even publicly. And some of these were failures in rebrands, trying to reposition their own category around this, and it just didn't work. Also, within the purpose-driven category, you have people trying to activate social justice issues. And if you've read, I don't know if I have the book here, but Rory Sutherland, let me try to pull it up here. In his book, Alchemy, he talks about the futile attempts of using things like mathematics, economic principles, in order to get people in marketing to buy your product. And the reason for this is actually people are interested in magic. People are interested in the illogical, and human behavior is, and always has been for a very long time, been able to influence our actions and decisions. And it's not always going to make sense. In this case, it's sort of illogical. Rather than setting up a beautiful person, we're going to redefine beauty, and we're actually going to lean into the overweight. We're going to lean into the person with wrinkles. We're going to lean into the person who has a small cup size. We're going to lean into the person who has lots of freckles or even other skin conditions. And we're going to say that's beautiful too. And you know what? that's purpose-driven category inversion. They're inverting it. They're investing it with purpose, and it's easy to get that wrong. So it's the difference between a 20-year competitive moat and a 24-hour PR disaster. And the difference is structural. This was based on research, and most brands can get this wrong if you're trying to do it overnight. So why did this win in 2026, or why do I think it will win? Well, first off, Edelman's 2024 Trust Barometer, you got to check this out. It's also in the newsletter. It documents a sustained multi-decade decline across advertising and corporate messaging. So when trust is scarce, the brand willing to name what the industry won't becomes immediately credible. So there is an opportunity here. Number one, advertising trust is near historic lows. And the opportunity here is if you can be authentic and it's aligned with your brand, people will immediately trust you. Number two, reason why something like this purpose-driven category inversion pattern will work is that social media makes inauthenticity a short half-life liability. So in 2004, aspirational campaigns could easily hide the gap between authenticity and your brand. But in 2006, we've all become accustomed to seeing what real authentic presentation really is now. And so that gap surfaces within hours, especially around Gen Z, according to the literature that I'm reading. Dove's Evolution film costs $135,000. You can read about that also in the newsletter. They took a woman and they showed what she looks like without any makeup, all the way up into full makeup and all the bells and whistles that you would put on. And that earned $150 million in free media, and that was before social sharing was mainstream. The third reason why I think this pattern is going to win in 2026, many categories still just haven't done this. They haven't extracted this strategy pattern and applied it to other industries, which we will see 3 other forms of it. This playbook is documented. Dove has been doing it for 20 years strong. The case studies are famous. The abandoned majority is still waiting in your industry. Look at the 2% that you are aiming for. Look at the 98% you're avoiding and see if you can rewrite the story. So where else did this pattern work? Well, it worked in Always. Hashtag Like a Girl 2014 in feminine care. Research showed more than half of girls lose confidence at puberty. Almost inverted Like a Girl from insult to a symbol of strength. Dove Always drove Always to 59.6% market share. The second example was actually in shoes. Nike, Dream Crazy, sports apparel, 2018. Highly controversial. However, the results speak for themselves. Nike inverted the industry's political neutrality norm with Colin Kaepernick. Short-term backlash, totally honest, totally real. But the long-term gains was a $6 billion added to brand value and 31% surge in direct sales. And the third one is actually in food. You can see how this pattern, it works in more than one industry, right? Burger King, moldy Whopper, fast food, 2020. After removing 8,500 tons of artificial preservatives, Burger King photographed their flagship burger decaying over 34 days. The food rots because it's real. 8.4 billion impressions and a 14% sales increase. You can look at those pictures in the newsletter as well. You can see that they took all these advertisements and ad campaigns, billboards, and they showed a disgusting moldy Whopper, and they said it was beautiful because it's natural. So you can see there, again, the pattern of category inversion there. Should you use this with your client? Well, you probably want to think about 4 questions and a red flag. First, what does your client's category promise that consumers already know is false? Number 2, can the core product deliver on an honest promise without contradicting the business model? Number 3, is the organization prepared to sustain this for 10 to 20 years? Good plan. You don't just want to start strong. You could see that in the Coors Light or in the Nike, Under Armour campaign that I did. Under Armour jump-started something that worked back in 2001. They redid in 2005. Nike's just been doing it constant. So you can read that too on the strategy signal. And number 4, how will the top 3 competitors respond? And are they architecturally locked down? The red flag to keep in mind, I talked a little bit about some flawed, failed cases, and one of them was Victoria's Secret. They spent decades profiting from the Angels standard. Then 2021 replaced the Angels with a diverse collective. No product change, no research foundation in this, no institutional program, Critics called it inclusivity washing within weeks, and sales continued to decline. So Dove did it differently. They did some research and they leaned into what we quote unquote call not so beautiful. If you want to read a little bit about how to apply this pattern, you can read the newsletter. Honestly, I'm not a fractional CMO. I write and ghostwrite for fractional marketing leaders. So implementing this, there's a whole lot of politics, budget, whole other considerations in mind. However, you're welcome to just comment down below. I will send you this slide if you're interested. And then I want to reflect just a little bit about my perspective, coming from the integration of psychology and spirituality. I think one of the reasons why this works so well is that culture assigns identity. So when the beauty industry spent 50 years defining beautiful as this narrow standard, it handed people a definition of themselves. And women internalized the standard at the ego level. Only 2% describe themselves as beautiful. So this isn't just like a product problem. This is an ontological problem. Not I don't look beautiful today, circumstantial, but themselves. That's the being issue. The culture imposes their vision, and it had traveled all the way inward into their actual being. This man here is Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson, on his drawing of Jung, names this distinction. He says, apprehend versus comprehend. That's my daughter. There's a difference between apprehending and comprehending. You can know a thing completely before you have the language for it. And the 98% had been apprehending the lie for decades before Dove had actually named it. And the feeling was there. The language was Dove's to give. So Dove's 3 years of research was the work of earning the right to name what had already existed. And that's what made it irreversible. Hey, listen, if you enjoy this breakdown and you enjoy the strategy signal, got lots of resources up on my Substack page. And today I just want to give you the free GPT. So you can actually put in your business details and it will tell you through a probability scoring whether it's a good fit for you and even give you a client-ready strategy deck. Thanks for now. It's Matthew. Take care. Catch you later.